If gratitude practices feel fake to you, there's a reason. And it's not that you're ungrateful or resistant to change. There's a key piece that the wellness industry doesn't understand and that corporate wellness programs don't want to admit. I'm Neil Beerbaum, Master Certified Coach, and I've spent 4 decades as an adult testing what works for personal development. In this video, I'm going to show you what gratitude fakery is, and you know what I'm talking about. Gratitude journals, gratitude challenges, corporate gratitude programs, it's everywhere. I'm going to show you how to recognize when it is fakery and what you can do when you're told to put a layer of gratitude icing over a pile of turd. Along the way, I'll introduce you to a deeper state, equanimity, and show you how to reach into that state. And to be fair, because we always want to be fair, let's look at where the whole idea of gratitude came from and what the research says. Gratitude isn't new. It's been part of human philosophy and religion across all cultures for thousands of years. The Stoics, the Chinese philosopher Confucius, all the religions have held up gratitude as a virtue, a way of being, something to practice until it becomes a character trait, and something that emerges naturally from wisdom and maturity. Then, late 20th century, we saw the boom of the self-help industry, we saw coaching enter the mainstream, and we saw the focus of psychology shift from what's wrong with you to what's good, or what makes people flourish. A lot of this was based on science. The studies of the flow state, or state of optimal experience by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, were an important part of that. And the gratitude practices were supported by research. In fact, a recent meta-analysis, which means a study of other studies, like gathering all the data of all the studies that have been done, so they collected data from 145 studies on gratitude across 28 countries, and found that gratitude interventions did have a positive effect, but it was tiny, an effect size of 0.19, where really you're looking for a 0.5 or a 0.8 for it to be really significant. So the 0.19 is real, but it's small, and it only worked for some groups, not all. It didn't work for middle-aged divorced women, for example, nor for children or adolescents. No surprises there. But it's marketed as transformative, as a cure-all, as something that will change your life in 30 days. The truth is, for something to be that effective, as I said, you'd want a bigger effect size. But we all know what happened next. The wellness industry took those small research findings and turned them into a billion-dollar market. An ancient philosophical virtue became a productivity technique. A way of being became a to-do list item, a corporate gift. And I'm not saying researchers are lying or wellness coaches are scamming you. The mechanism is more like this. Researchers find small benefits, the media oversimplifies it, publishers respond to demand, companies see opportunity, and we buy it because we want simple solutions. And so the cycle reinforces itself. We're all complicit in perpetuating myths that we want to believe. Let me be clear about what gratitude practices are attempting to do, because the intention isn't bad. So your brain has a negativity bias. It's an evolutionary feature, not a bug. Your mind constantly scans for threats, problems, things that could go wrong. And that's reactive. It happens automatically, in other words. In the modern office, those threats might be more abstract. So instead of saber-toothed tigers, which is where the brain pattern originated, you're scanning for, say, someone undermining you in a meeting. And gratitude practices attempt to interrupt this default negativity by deliberately redirecting your attention toward positive experiences you might otherwise overlook. The fact that you have a supportive team, for example, or an understanding boss, might in some ways compensate, so the belief goes, for that annoying person who always undermines you. So the aim is to shift you from what's wrong to what's right, or from what's missing to what's present. It's trying to create balance in a system that evolved to prioritize threat detection over appreciation. The research shows it works, as I said, an effect size of 0.19. So that's real, but small. And yet, the wellness industry markets it as transformation. And more importantly, there's a deeper problem that the research and the self-help practice completely misses. The problem emerges when gratitude becomes forced, perhaps because everybody's doing it, so you better, what's wrong with you? And that's when it shifts from authentic feeling to performance, or when it's used to silence legitimate pain, like at least you have a job in this market. I've seen this pattern hundreds of times in my coaching practice. Let me show you how it plays out. The first pattern is emotional suppression. Say you're struggling at work, you're burned out, underpaid, undervalued, and your manager says, that example, you should be grateful you have a job in this economy. That's not gratitude. That's silencing. You're being told to use gratitude to avoid acknowledging a legitimate problem. Your burnout is real. The inadequate compensation is real. Be grateful becomes a tool to dismiss those realities. The second pattern is gratitude shaming. So you say to a friend, I'm struggling to get my needs met in this relationship. And they come back with, you should be grateful, you're not alone. Some people have it worse. This is comparison masquerading as wisdom. Your pain doesn't disappear because somebody else has different pain. It's the classic old, finish your food. Children are starving out there in other countries. It used to be Africa. That doesn't help the starving children, and it doesn't help you process what you're actually experiencing. Another version of this can be first world problems. Pattern number 3 is corporate manipulation. And here's where this gets insidious. Companies implement gratitude programs, so they hand out journals, stage challenges, invite peer recognition, all while refusing to address excessive workloads, poor management, inadequate compensation, or toxic culture. The gratitude program becomes a substitute for fixing what's actually broken. It's cheaper than raising salaries or hiring more staff. And here's the neuroscience that all of those patterns ignore. What the research actually shows is that forcing positive emotions doesn't rewire your stress response. It compounds it. When you suppress negative emotions, that anger, frustration, grief, to perform gratitude, you don't decrease cortisol, you increase it. You create internal conflict, not resolution. All that I've described so far is what you can observe on the surface, the research, the industry, the patterns of how this myth perpetuates itself. Now let me take you deeper to the ontological level. Ontology is the study of the nature of being, and ontological coaching is a path by which you can learn to observe your own experience directly, not through studies, but through your own awareness, and see things that scientists can't measure, things you can experience for yourself. So forget the research for a minute and investigate this yourself. We'll slow it down frame by frame, because once you see it directly, you don't need me or any researcher to convince you. You can do this by recalling past experiences, and you should also try it with current experiences. If you pay attention to your own thoughts, as mindfulness teaches you to do, you'll see that the mind judges everything. We very seldom just see a thing and let it be what it is. It's always like or don't like, good or bad, right or wrong, acceptable, not acceptable. Basically all day, that's all we do. In the Buddhist tradition, that creates a problem. It's called craving and aversion, running after and away from things. And it's the source of all suffering, says Buddhism. And it is. Go and check it out. In the Judeo-Christian tradition too, it was gaining the knowledge of good and evil that had Adam and Eve tossed out of Eden. In other words, if we interpret that story symbolically, it's when they started judging things as right and wrong or good and bad that they began to suffer. So now let's slow it down frame by frame. Let's say you get a bad performance review at work. Frame 1, the event happens, the news lands. Frame 2, your mind labels it bad. Frame 3, you tell yourself, I should be grateful I still have a job. See what just happened? The mind judged it bad, then tried to force it good. But the forcing creates resistance. Now you're fighting yourself. That internal fight, that's the suffering. Not the performance review, not the negative judgment on its own. The fight. By the time you've had your morning coffee and got dressed each day, you've quite possibly done this dozens of times. The alarm goes off, you judge it. The weather outside, you judge it. The email that just came in, you judge it. Traffic, your co-worker's tone, the meeting that got scheduled. Hundreds of micro-judgments. And if you're trying to force gratitude on top of that, you're just adding more judgment to an already overloaded system. Here's something to consider. The ideal state in all religious and philosophical traditions is not gratitude, it's equanimity. That means having no judgment about anything, no matter how bad or how good it may seem. Along with compassion, equanimity is the highest spiritual virtue. It's the foundation for a peaceful mind and a peaceful life. So the real practice isn't gratitude, it's equanimity, learning to observe without judgment. Now you're not going to master this in 10 minutes. You might not even master it in a lifetime. It's a big mountain to climb. But here's where it starts. The next time you notice yourself forcing gratitude for something that actually sucks, pause. Don't force the gratitude. Don't force the complaint. Just observe. This is happening. I'm judging it as bad. Now I'm trying to convince myself it's good. That observation, without forcing it in either direction, without trying to force it to a conclusion, that's the beginning of equanimity. Why? Because you're learning to see and accept things as they are, without trying to change them. That's the real path to a peaceful mind. And that's why gratitude practices don't work when they're forced or fake, because they increase instead of decrease the instability of the mind. They cause internal friction, which leads to cognitive dissonance, and ultimately spiritual bypassing, which is when you misuse spiritual beliefs or practices to avoid dealing with uncomfortable truths. That's the frame-by-frame investigation I was talking about. And once you see it directly, you don't need me or any researcher to convince you. Here are 4 practices I've discovered that actually work. Not theory, not marketing, what I've tested with hundreds of clients and myself over 25 years. The first practice, acknowledge reality first. So don't force gratitude when you're struggling. Feel the frustration, name the anger, process the grief, acknowledge what's actually difficult, sit with it, let it be. And here's a little secret, which you can also observe for yourself. Nothing lasts forever. And some things don't last nearly as long as we fear or hope. Even feelings and situations. So when you sit with a feeling and allow it to be, you'll notice something. Thoughts and feelings that a moment ago seemed frozen forever in your mind start to melt. Judgments start to dissolve and change shape. Follow that and see what happens. It might be that you realize, I can't accept this situation, I need to do something about it. In which case, stop the gratitude practice and go and do that thing. Speak up if it's at a workplace. Or it might be that you see something you didn't see before in the situation, and it naturally turns into a form of acceptance that might one day allow some gratitude in that area. So that colleague that was undermining you, maybe they were supporting you in some way to get better. Maybe you start to recognize that. That's honest and real. In my coaching practice, this pattern is consistent, that clients who spend time acknowledging what's real and true for them either decide to take action or discover genuine gratitude in that area. Clients who jump straight to, I should be grateful, stay stuck. Practice number 2, question corporate gratitude programs. If your workplace is pushing gratitude journals while refusing to address unreasonable workloads, poor compensation, toxic management, lack of resources, systemic problems, that's manipulation, not wellness. Don't confuse performing gratitude with fixing what's actually broken. Real organizational health requires addressing real problems. They need a different response, not a gratitude makeover. Practice number 3 is to practice observation without judgment. I've pointed to this, and this is the real work. When something difficult happens, don't force yourself to be grateful. Don't indulge the complaint. Just observe. This is happening. I'm judging it. I'm fighting with reality. That observation, that's equanimity training. That's the practice beneath all the gratitude hype. And finally, practice number 4, let authentic gratitude emerge. Real gratitude is spontaneous. It emerges when you're not forcing it. When genuine appreciation arises, when you actually feel gratitude without trying, notice that, savor it, but don't make it into homework. Don't turn it into a judgment. I should feel this more often. And don't try to hold on to it. Let it go. It will come and it will pass. That's the pathway to a peaceful mind, which is a mind where gratitude arises naturally more often. I'm Neil Bierbaum, Master Certified Coach with 25 years and 10,000 hours testing what actually works in the real world, not just in theory. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more evidence-based truth about what the self-help industry won't tell you. And if you disagree with anything I've said, tell me why in the comments. I want to know what you've discovered, because that's how we move past myths and to what actually works. And now go and observe something difficult instead of forcing yourself to be grateful for it, because your best self deserves better.